don't know. That's them. The hard truth for Republicans is continuing to scream about democratic socialism will not distract voters from their own, the voters' problems. The Washington Post headline, sorry conservatives, the cancel Thanksgiving candidate lost. We told you about this last night. Voters care about grocery bills. Politicians fight old cultural battles. With us now, former chief of staff for Vice President Mike Pence, Marc Short, 704 White House correspondent Shelby Talcott, and former Senate comms advisor, host of the 10-Minute Drill, Matt Whitlock. Good to see all of you. Shelby, start with you. Pretty clear President Trump does not seem to think, at least publicly, that he has a problem and needs to change course in any way. How is the White House going to deal with this of trying to allow Republicans to do what they need to do while keeping President Trump focused on not attacking Republicans who move away from him?
I think it's a challenge, and I do think it's been interesting because you've seen some lawmakers sort of not necessarily overtly embrace Trump, but the lawmakers aren't necessarily criticizing Trump, and I think that's the fine line where the president will allow that. I think the overt criticism is where you really cannot rein in the president to calling out lawmakers. But at the same time, the real question for the administration, and I've heard this from administration officials, is what is the Republican Party going to present as an opportunity for voters? Because they do have sort of the attack lines down against the Democratic Party, which is what you just laid out. But they are still trying to figure out, how do we not only convince voters that these people are too progressive to vote for, but also convince them that we are providing those economic solutions? And that's where you've seen they've really been struggling, and they haven't quite figured out the answer.
Marc, you know better than anybody, you don't have to get people to vote for you. You just have to get them to not vote for the person they were going to. You represent, I think, as well as anybody does on television, probably the best of anybody. It's why we keep inviting you back. Traditionally conservative Republicans who still have a set of principles and organizing principles they think through. Is the fear of socialism enough to get them out to the ballot box in a midterm election because they're more afraid of socialism than they dislike where America is right now and maybe are not too thrilled with MAGA and Republicans at all?
Leland, I think it depends. I think in some cases the brand that Democrats are putting forward are so radical and so far left that, yes, I think it can be a motivating factor for Republican voters to come out. But I think to your lead-in, I think the challenge for Republicans is that one of the primary issues back 2 years ago that elected Donald Trump was wanting to address the affordability issue. And when inflation remains a persistent problem and has not been addressed, and Republicans aren't saying, you know what, we passed tax relief, markets are all-time highs, here's how that tax relief is helping make your life more affordable, and they're not on that message, it makes it far more difficult. And so I think they're sort of on a defensive posture that wants to simply attack the Democrats. Again, in many cases, I think that's effective, but it's not going to be the panacea for Republicans this midterm.
Yeah, of all people, J.D. Vance seems to understand that in a way his boss does not.
Our response to that can't be just to ignore the economic concerns that I think are feeding this rising interest in socialism. And I guess I would say to that young person that you as an American citizen deserve to have a good life in this country, and you deserve to have a government that is making it easier for you to start a family, for you to afford to get a good education, for you to have a good job, for you to afford a home. And my warning to my fellow Republicans, would be, if we don't get this right, don't blame young people for being sympathetic to socialism. We've got to blame ourselves.
Matt, do you see any introspection by anybody other than the vice president?
Not as much as we need. I agree with so much of what Marc said. I think that fear of socialism gets us to a certain level with Republican turnout. But moderates, independents, moderate Democrats don't have the fear of socialism that previous generations might have had. And to the vice president's point, there's a lot of people that look at socialism and say, hey, that might be an improvement on my current situation. I don't think is very good right now. And so we have to make an argument for things we've done, as Marc was saying, things like really strong tax returns, things like positive indicators. But you also can't fall into the trap. I feel like you led into this with when you were talking about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. The trap is you can't tell people the economy is great, because if they're not feeling it, it won't help them. You need to tell people that you've got a path to get there.
Yeah, and you can't complain about what you were handed or what happens in the past. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
Marc? Oh, good. Wow. I love it. Guys, this is great TV. Everybody agrees with me. Marc.
Well, look, I do think that one of the other challenge, Leland, is I hate to be the skunk of the party here, is that, I think the socialism threat is serious on the left. But when it's a Republican administration that is taking ownership in private companies, that is forcing price controls, that is pushing a trade agenda that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren want, it makes the message a little bit harder if you aren't actually offering a stark contrast. If you're a little bit socialist as opposed to a lot socialist, that's really hard to motivate a lot of voters.
Yeah. Last point, which is how do you get low propensity, Donald Trump voters who are very unlikely to vote unless Trump is on the ballot to the polls? Newt Gingrich has an idea.
I think this is the most important off-year election in my lifetime. The difference between having a Republican majority that wants to work on problems and having a Democratic majority that wants to impeach the president.
Shelby, how long till the White House starts going with the, hey, it may be terrible, but Democrats are going to impeach me argument?
I've heard it internally from the administration. There's an acknowledgement that, well, inevitably, they're going to try to impeach the president. I don't think they're that focused on it right now. But it does raise the question of, how is this administration going to get out those Trump voters? They believe that getting the president out is going to do that. I've heard arguments from Republicans saying that the president is not focused enough on the economic argument to be able to do that. We're going to have to wait until November.
Yeah, and if Democrats win, there's going to be a lot of lawyers in D.C. who suddenly have new clients from the White House. Marc Short, Shelby Talcott, Matt Whitlock, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Lee.
Nike, Amazon, Apple, just some of the companies seeing earnings turbocharged by tariff refunds. They're getting refunds. So when do we get the refunds for higher prices we had to pay?